What's up, everyone? Welcome to the All49ers Roundtable. I'm Grant Cohn, joined by Ben Meyerson, Jack Hammer, Chuy Marquez, and Waruna Perera. We got 5 analysts, 5 topics today in 60 minutes, so let's not mess around. Let's get right into it. Kyle Shanahan, God love him. If I were in a worse mood, if there were a lot of things going on, I might be criticizing him and like, man, he's talking a lot. He's in the news a lot. But no, we need content. This is a dead period, and Kyle Shanahan provides. He breaks a rule, then he doesn't break a rule. Then he throws a ball into a pizza oven, and now he goes on a podcast and just gives us so much to talk about. Apparently, he was really interested in Matthew Stafford, was watching him for weeks, kind of thought he was going to get him, was disappointed when the Rams got him. My question for you is, what was your takeaway from Kyle Shanahan's latest bombshell? Who would like to start, Waruna or Ben?
Ben should go first.
I can.
Ben, you go.
So I listened to this entire Kyle Shanahan podcast. Really recommend it if you haven't listened to it yet. It's a great listen. But what I will say about this whole Matthew Stafford thing is that I think the 49ers are in a good place with Trey Lance right now. I think they're on a good path. I think, like Grant has mentioned during the entire offseason, if this is the guy they were going to move up for, Trey Lance makes the most sense. But I think if the 49ers did end up trading for Matthew Stafford, I wonder how different things would have been right now. And I say that specifically because I'm thinking about how much draft capital the 49ers spent to go and move up to get Trey Lance, how much they had to give up, and considering the fact that the Rams, if you look at how much they actually gave up to acquire Matthew Stafford, the 49ers, they would not have had to given up all the draft capital they did for Trey Lance. So I guess when I look at this whole Matthew Stafford news, I'm not really disappointed, but I guess it's interesting because I think on the one hand, like I said, they're fine with where they're at with Trey Lance right now, but Matthew Stafford is $20 million this year. He's $23 million next season. He would be cheaper than what Jimmy Garoppolo is right now, and I think if the 49ers had held on to their draft picks, then maybe they pick Rashawn Slater number 12 and then Asante Samuel in the second round, and that's how you really round out your roster. So that's kind of where my mind goes with this whole Matthew Stafford news. You know, maybe they go and make a trade for a Julio Jones or something like that. So on the one hand, I understand why everyone's freaking out. I think it makes a lot of sense that Kyle was really into Stafford, but I think my mind more goes towards how different would life have been for the 49ers right now, and who would be on this team right now. I think that's really interesting.
Good answer.
Yeah, for me, I think this really kind of erases any doubt that the 49ers were looking to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, really from the end of the regular season. They had in mind that they wanted to make a move on and go after somebody else, and Stafford just happened to be the guy. You know, we saw this throughout the offseason with the 49ers being linked to the quarterbacks. You know, in free agency, it was Andy Dalton, who Kyle Shanahan was reportedly real interested in during free agency period. Then you had Mitchell Trubisky's name mentioned. Then went into the, after that, he started getting closer to the draft. You had, the interest possibly in Teddy Bridgewater, and then that turned into Sam Darnold. And I think all of this, and then eventually after all this was done, the 49ers needed to cover their missteps throughout this, offseason. And that's where the trade for the picks to move up to number 3 and give up all that draft capital for Trey Lance comes into play. And, kind of going with what Ben said, if you wanted to take a look at this, they could have given up 2 draft picks and Jimmy Garoppolo for a quarterback that would give you a lower cap hit than Garoppolo, who's going to be a better quarterback than Garoppolo. And they would have been able to keep almost all of their draft picks outside of that. They still would have had their second, third, and so on. So think about having Matthew Stafford as your quarterback for a lower cost in 2021 and 22, a guy that can put you right in the square of the thick of 49 Super Bowl contention, and then going out and using your third round draft pick instead of on Trey Sermon, you go out and use Kellen Mond. So now you've got your quarterback for the now, and you've got your quarterback for the future. So I think there's a lot to be looked at with this, and it really comes down to all boils down to the Garoppolo and all this talk we're hearing about him being the quarterback this year. Really is it's not any more than just talk.
So my thoughts about this situation are, what are you doing, Kyle Shanahan? Is Jimmy Garoppolo not still on the roster? he's killing any and all trade value for Jimmy Garoppolo. And we're kind of understanding where Kyle stood all along when it came to Jimmy Garoppolo. So all the rumors going on about disconnect between the front office and Kyle Shanahan, this is kind of confirming them, because the state of the franchise was last week and they were just pumping up Jimmy Garoppolo left and right in the new uniforms with Jerry Rice. And, you get Kyle Shanahan going out there and he's just throwing Jimmy under the bus. Like, I did not see this coming. I could see.
What did he throw better,
Shanahan,
the football into the oven or Jimmy Garoppolo under the bus? Sorry.
What's
a better throw?
I still don't believe that was the first take like Joe Staley claims it was. So I'm going to say he's throwing Jimmy Garoppolo under the bus a little bit better. He's just killing any trade value. I don't know what he's planning to do with Jimmy Garoppolo at this point. It was a bombshell to me, and I think it's I really don't know where Kyle's mind is at after that interview.
I just can't believe that Sean McVay got such a candid answer. Like, if I had asked Kyle Shanahan that question, he wouldn't have said that. But Sean McVay says, "Hey, what do you think of me getting Matthew Stafford?" And Kyle just unloads publicly. Gotta love him. Waruna, what was your major takeaway?
So the major takeaway is it's depressing in terms of when you think about the fans, Jimmy fans. I'm not a Jimmy hater, but here's the thing. Every quarterback, as Jack said, during the offseason, when news comes out that there is a chance to move out, it was linked to 49ers, right? And right after the draft, or just a few hours before the draft, John Lynch publicly admitted that they just gave a call to check on Aaron Rodgers, right? Mm-hmm. Then Kyle Shanahan admitted it. Now this news comes out. Now this is like you are going out on a date with a girl, and what you are doing nonstop is talking about other girls.
Yeah.
This is what is happening over there, right? But still, for whatever reasons, fans do not understand it. They are still saying Jimmy is our guy. Jimmy is the starter. Jimmy wins. Right? They throw everything, but they still do not understand. There is some kind of thing that we do not understand why Jimmy is still there, whether, the Jet York or Lynch wants him to be there. Other than that, right now, it should have been Jimmy either cut or traded away. So I hope at least fans take the clue and move on from Jimmy, because it's going to be embarrassing. The more this is going to drag, it's going to be embarrassing, because, has any head coach talked about other quarterbacks when they were unhappy with their starting quarterback like this out in the open publicly? I don't know.
I don't think so. No, and it's like, I think this answers the question, why is Jimmy Garoppolo being so quiet? Why isn't he organizing practices? Why isn't he working out with Debo and Ayuk? Because he's gone. And, the organization can say whatever they want to say, but Kyle has probably told him the deal. They probably had a very candid conversation, and Kyle can't even help himself when he's on a podcast with Sean McVay. I'm with Jack on this one. It's like, I think a lot of Niner fans were kind of kidding themselves on this. They didn't believe the Matthew Stafford news. They didn't believe the Darnold news. And they're thinking, well, yeah, the Niners traded for this backup, but he's a project. And he's like 2 years away. And he may not even be that good. And really the reason he's on this team is to be a better backup, because Jimmy gets hurt sometimes. But it's still Jimmy's team. Still Jimmy's team until like 2023. Like, nah. What was going on is Kyle Shanahan is not pleased with what happened with the quarterback position last year. God knows what happened. It's odd that Jimmy Garoppolo didn't play down the stretch. It's clear that Kyle wants a new starting quarterback, doesn't want to be at the mercy of Jimmy. Looked at Stafford, probably looked at Watson, probably looked at Wentz, probably looked at Darnold, and they landed on Lance. But that wasn't necessarily their first choice, and they didn't go for Lance because they're trying to keep Jimmy Garoppolo around. They went for a new quarterback because they're trying to get a new starting quarterback. And Kyle Shanahan said that like 12 times in that pre-draft press conference. So, yeah, this kind of ends the fantasy for the Jimmy Garoppolo crowd. Sorry, but you've heard it from Kyle Shanahan's mouth. He was looking for Matthew Stafford. Stafford and Jimmy wouldn't have been on the team together. Jimmy would be off the team right now if Stafford was here.
I have one quick comment on that, Grant. do you think that like Kyle's trying to force John Lynch's hand to just get rid of him now? Because he tried to do it with that, pre-draft interview, the press conference that he crashed, and now he's just going out and blatantly saying, "Hey, I don't want Jimmy Garoppolo. I didn't want him this year."
You think Kyle really cares if they get a 6th-round pick for Jimmy or a 4th-round pick for Jimmy? You think he cares? He just traded away 3 first-round picks. I don't think he cares. So that's more of like Lynch trying to make his resume look better. I didn't just trade for Jimmy and cut him. That looks bad. But I traded for Jimmy and got a 2nd back, or like a 1st-round pick. No, that's a John Lynch issue. I don't think Kyle cares. So that's a good point. And that leads us into our next topic. Oh, go ahead.
So when it comes to like the locker room, the locker room environment there, how can you bring Jimmy Garoppolo into the locker room for training camp at this point? How alienated is he going to feel going into the locker room after Kyle Shanahan went on that podcast and just completely threw him under the bus?
Well, I mean, it's not like he hasn't done this before. He does this to Jimmy Garoppolo every 3-4 months. So I think Jimmy's used to it by now. And I think Jimmy's attitude is, I'm just going to keep my head down. And I'm not going to say anything to tarnish my brand. I'm going to take the high road, and I'll be out of here soon. And that's cool. So I think that's his attitude.
And just like one other small thing, I mean, this just tells us the 49ers should have tagged Jimmy way back when. This contract that the team is on now, and this whole road that the 49ers have went down, it just hasn't worked, and they exhausted every offseason this offseason to try and fix that. So.
Maybe you could say they shouldn't have traded for him in the first place. I don't know. I don't know. The interesting thing that I've realized recently is that if they hadn't traded for Jimmy, a lot of people think, they would have signed Kirk Cousins. Well, if they hadn't traded for Jimmy, they probably would have finished the year like 1-15, and then they could have drafted Josh Allen. But they probably would have drafted Sam Darnold, and it wouldn't have been worth it. I don't know. I'm just saying, history could have been a lot different, but they ended up with Trey Lance, and I really like Trey Lance. Let's move on because we need to talk about a lot of Trey Lance today. Greg Rosenthal, this is another NFL Network guy. All the latest cutting-edge news, the latest news about the 49ers always comes from NFL Network, always. And he says that Trey Lance is going to start week 1 if he looks more accurate than he was in college. He said things like, it's really issue of when Trey Lance is ready. And what's interesting is the official line of what ready is a little more accurate than he was in college. So if Trey Lance is out there airmailing people left and right in camp, he's not going to win the job. But if he looks pretty refined, and then that's that. That's what Greg Rosenthal is saying. Do you buy this? You don't have to buy this. Do you buy this? And do you think this is realistic? I guess. Waruna, you go first.
Yeah. No. Here's the reason. Because these are like things that you can argue in both ways, right?
Okay.
Because I can come out and say, okay, Trey Lance will start week 1 if he's ready. If you do some changes with his mechanics. If he does not start, then I can say, okay, he was not ready. These were the problems that he had. So I always win because I'm not the bad guy because I said something. It's a 50-50 situation. So I would always win because this is what they are doing. If you remember, even after that 49ers drafted Trey Lance, I think it was Mike Lombardi or somebody. They said that 49ers still wanted Mac Jones, but due to the fan pressure, they went ahead with Trey Lance. I mean, what kind of a news reporting is that? I mean, you have to, at some point, you have to accept, okay, we were wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, we weren't top of our game. Because Kyle openly said it. We didn't say what we wanted to do to anyone. So unless otherwise you have some magical power, you don't know what this organization is going to do. So we can only speculate it, and you have to accept that. That's what journalism is. These guys are breaking the rules of journalism. So I don't buy these stories like, okay, it is up to the organization. I mean, they should come up with some better stories. We are doing better than this.
Fair. Yeah, Greg Rosenthal probably doesn't have a direct line to Kyle Shanahan. What do you think, Chuy?
I'm starting to turn my tide on this. I was of the belief that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the week 1 starter, and he was hanging on to the job until he either hit a rough patch or he got injured. But I'm starting to change my tune a little bit, and I think I went back and I watched some tape of Trey Lance, and I think he's going to be ready a lot sooner than people think. So I do believe that he's probably going to be the day one starter, and Jimmy Garoppolo will not be on the roster week 1 for the 49ers. So I think he's going to get traded either in training camp or just outright cut. I just don't think he'll be on the roster. Now, a surprising thing with it is I don't think the offense is going to look a lot different with Trey Lance in, playing versus Jimmy Garoppolo. A lot of what I saw him have success with at North Dakota State was not chucking bombs down the field. I mean, that's where he's been most inaccurate, is down the field. So I think there's going to be a lot of, Jimmy gimmies that go into the offense early on. They're going to protect him with the run game. And then he's going to be working the intermediate stuff to like George Kittle, stuff like that. I don't see him really transforming the offense early on, besides maybe breaking some runs here or there. But I do think that they are preparing him to be the week 1 starter, and I think he's going to be the week 1 starter.
Yeah, I think look at based on the way that this report comes out, I think that Trey Lance is going to be the week 1 starter. They're talking about him needing to be a little bit more accurate than he was in college, but he was fairly accurate when he was in college. He wasn't any less accurate than Jimmy Garoppolo. Really,
more accurate than Wentz was at the same school.
Yeah, exactly that. And go ahead.
So I'm just saying. Yeah.
No, and I was going to say too. On top of that, I mean, when you watch the film, there's times when some of his incompletions aren't even on him. They look like bad throws, but part of that's because the wide receivers are falling down and tripping over their own feet and stuff like that. So I don't foresee that being a problem for Trey Lance. I think he's going to come in. He's going to understand this offense a lot sooner than pretty much anybody believes or thought at the time of the pick. And he's going to come in here and he's going to win this job, and he's going to be the guy that starts week 1, and we'll see him throughout all of 2021.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with a lot of what everyone else is saying, which is that I kind of already thought that it was more likely than not that Lance would be the starter, and I'm just buying that even more and more. But the thing that stuck out to me about this specific report is he talks about the accuracy, and I think for me, if Trey Lance figures out the intermediate passing game and he can be somewhat similar or at the same level of Jimmy Garoppolo as an intermediate passer, there isn't any reason he shouldn't be the week 1 starter. I think he will already be better than checkdowns at Jimmy. I was watching the first 2 games of the 49ers season in 2020, that Jets game and that Arizona game. The main thing that stuck out to me when watching Jimmy Garoppolo is how many checkdowns he just messed up, whether it was throwing them too late, throwing them inaccurately, or not being able to dissect the defense in the right way. So when they say Trey Lance just has to be accurate and more accurate than he was in college and then he'll win the job, well, he should be more accurate because he hasn't played since 2019. He's had almost 24 plus months now in between playing, if he is going to be playing week 1. So I just think that everything seems to be pointing more and more towards Trey being the starter. And I think once we see him in preseason, to me, that's going to be really telling of where the team is going with this. And I think if he shows that he's better than Jimmy in that intermediate game, specifically in those preseason games, I think Jimmy's days are numbered.
Yeah, I mean, this report's like if he looks decent, he's the starter. I feel like what we're seeing here is like when you take what we perceive as Kyle Shanahan's desire to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. We see how hard he's been looking around. He's been on like the Tinder of quarterbacks. He's flirted with every single one. So you take the fact how motivated Kyle Shanahan is to move on to the fact that he's already done this with a rookie quarterback before. He did this with RG3. And sure, RG3 had more experience in college, but he played in like an air raid spread offense that had none of the stuff that North Dakota State did, all the under center pro style stuff. So I'm thinking Kyle Shanahan is motivated to move on and confident that he can win with a rookie because he's done it before. So I'm thinking that, yeah, he's going to win. He's going to start week 1, and I'm going to win the bet with my dad. So I'm excited. Feeling good.
Yeah, one thing I want to add about this is like even in the chat I saw that Trey Lance has to win the job. I don't think it's a valid argument. If it is a valid argument, if Trey Lance was drafted like late 2nd round, 3rd round, then he has to prove himself. But when you spend 3 first round picks to draft this quarterback, and you think still he has to beat your whatever the quarterback that you have right now, if you think that, you should get fired.
Yeah, life doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You should get fired like that. David says, do you think Shanahan was truthful when he said he liked both Lance and Jones in the draft? Did he have a preference of Jones because he was considered NFL ready and he could be more easily replace Jimmy? It's a possibility. If we think that Kyle Shanahan is this motivated to move on, maybe he would gravitate toward the NFL ready one. But I think what he's learning is that Lance is NFL ready too, and I think he really made the right choice between the two. Fair?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing too is it's clear Kyle liked Mac to a certain extent, but when you hear him talk about this issue in the podcast, he specifically mentions the 11-on-11 football thing. That's something that Mac Jones just can't beat out Trey Lance in. And I think that aspect is probably what enticed Kyle more than anything else to me.
If you want a dominant run game, I think you want to have that element. I mean, the Seahawks have it. Excuse me. Yeah, the Seahawks have it. The Saints have it. The Patriots have it. Now the Niners have it. The Ravens have it.
And Kyle got a taste.
Yeah, I think he was.
Go ahead, Chuy.
I think he was very truthful in that answer, especially when he said he was interested in Mac Jones and Trey Lance. But then once he did the film study and he just noticed, Trey Lance jumped off the page to him, I think that put him over the top on Trey Lance over Mac Jones. But I do think there was interest early on for Mac Jones.
Kyler V. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Gary. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I agree. I think that there was definitely some interest in both of them, and I think what Kyle saw was what I continually missed during my film study was the ability, the things that Mac Jones could do was a lot of the same things that Jimmy Garoppolo could do. Of course, that some of those were better in terms of his accuracy and his throwing, but when you get into the running game portion of the game, that's where he wasn't going to be able to do that with Mac Jones, and that's not even necessarily. That's just go back and you watch Jimmy Garoppolo try to scramble outside and make a throw on the move, and you watch Mac Jones, and Mac Jones was just as bad as a Garoppolo outside the pocket in terms of his arm strength. Whereas you put Trey Lance in that same situation, you're going to see a guy that's going to be able to get to the edge and possibly scramble for a first down, or even if he is having to throw on the move, he's got a strong enough arm where he can really rip it down the field. And both things that Garoppolo and Jones aren't able to do.
Kyler V says, if Trey Lance is ready, we need to get rid of Jimmy ASAP. We got to take advantage of that rookie deal before Trey gets that Patty Mahomes deal, LOL. Yeah, I think Niner fans are starting to get it. Like, I'm sorry about the Jimmy. I know you guys are invested in Jimmy, you like Jimmy. It's just that Kyle doesn't feel the same way that you do or used to. And it's time to at least accept that Jimmy Garoppolo is a placeholder now. So, good step, Kyler V. Tommy Huxley says Lance is not starting week 1 stop. Thank you, Tommy Huxley, for that brilliant insight. And now we're moving on to another section. How should the 49ers use Trey Lance this season? We're talking like, do you have him throw 35 times a game? Do you have him throw 19 times a game? Do you use him like Taysom Hill off the bench? Is there a progression? You can take this however you want to take it. Ben, why don't you start?
So I think in the beginning, especially if he's playing this season early on, I don't think it's going to be too dissimilar from the Jimmy offense, at least at first. I think, like Waruna said earlier, we'll see a lot of the Jimmy gimmies, right? I think just in watching those 2 games, like I was talking about, there's so many passes I see where Trey Lance would be so much better just as a decision maker. So I think that's one place that I really don't even think it's going to change that much. I think if anything, what's going to change in the passing game initially is going to be more outside the pocket movement, more bootleg actions, more just movement in general. And I think that only lends Kyle Shanahan more and more in his offense. So I think it'll really be something that it'll look very similar to the Jimmy offense in the beginning. And then as the season goes along and Trey progresses, the offense will progress in and of itself. And I think the main difference when Trey is finally in a good rhythm and once Kyle cuts him more and more down towards the end of the season, we'll see more outside the numbers passes. We'll see more deep balls to the Ayuks of the world and those kind of things. And I think the biggest difference to me and how they're going to use Trey Lance is going to be the red zone offense, just the RPO stuff that we're going to see in there, how much of a problem he's going to create for defenses just with his presence on the field alone. That's where I see the biggest changes in the offense, but I really don't think the passing game is going to be too dissimilar from what the Jimmy Garoppolo offense is right now.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see in the way that Lance is going to be brought along is I think you're going to see a little bit of a limitation on the passing game. And what I mean by that is you're going to see more of an emphasis on running the ball. So his attempts are going to probably be somewhere in the 27 to 23 range, right around there. About 25 a game is right around that ballpark. As far as the offense that's called, though, when it does come to a passing offense, I don't think you're going to really notice any difference between 2019 and 2020. That offense, because that is the offense, and all those screens and those that kind of game that you saw with Garoppolo, that all fits really well with Trey Lance. You saw him do those things at North Dakota State, and I just don't think we're going to see a whole lot of difference. I think where the difference is going to come is in the second, as the season progresses, you're going to see Lance be able to maybe make some throws down the field that Garoppolo wouldn't attempt. Where you've got a crossing route underneath with a deep post over the top that, it's not a called shot play, but he's going to be able to hit that shot play because he's going to see it open instead of just being locked in on George Kittle running across the field. Those are the kind of progressions that I would hope to see out of Trey Lance throughout his rookie season. And beyond that, I've mentioned a couple different times, go back and watch the way that that Shanahan brought along RG3 in Washington. Especially that first series of his career, he threw 6 passes in that first drive. None of them went past the line of scrimmage, and his air yardage was a total of -20 on that first drive, and they drove down the field and kicked a field goal. And so that just kind of shows how that Shanahan can bring along a rookie quarterback really easily and make him successful.
Yeah, I agree with Ben and Jack both. I don't think that there's going to be a big change in our offense from a passing standpoint. I do believe where there is going to be a big difference is going to be in the run game. Obviously, Trey Lance is going to get a couple called runs here and there throughout the game. They're also, I think, with drafting Aaron Banks, they're going to transition and try to be a little bit of a more downhill running team so they can wear the defenses down and really lean on that run game throughout the game. So I think we're going to see a little bit more run-heavy game. And like Jack mentioned, in the low 20s in the pass attempts for Trey Lance, I think is going to be the average probably for the first quarter to half of the season, especially if he comes out of the gate starting. And Trey Sermon, I think, is going to play a big role in bringing the defenses down and really being that bruising back that we really haven't had in the past.
All right, Waruna.
Okay, so I agree with the points that how Trey Lance will be used during this season. So I'm going to answer as a fan how I would like to see Trey Lance is going to be used. Now, I watched 2016 Cam Newton's MVP season. So during that season, week 13 in Saints, they were unbeaten at that point. A high-scoring game. Both the teams combinedly scored like 80 points. So it was a classic example of the efficient quarterback play versus entertainment quarterback play. In this game, Cam Newton had the chance to finish the game. I mean, seal off the game, 2-3 chances. He missed these throws high and far, as Trey Lance would do, you mentioned during the training camp. But still, every time he scores, he makes that run. It's such entertaining to watch. At the same time, Drew Brees, he was so efficient. He had the answer to everything that Cam Newton threw at him. But end of the day, the game entertainment fact, if that is only considered, I mean, in the QB's play, I really like if we can use Trey Lance in the same way as Cam Newton, but it's risky because end of the day, eventually you are going to get hurt. But I just want to see at least a few games to show others that we have a kind of Russell Wilson, Mahomes, that we have the guy that you can just go on your business. We can show ourselves, I mean, to the rest of the NFL world that we got the guy, we can dance, we can dazzle.
Sorry for distracting you. It was funny. I'm sorry. Good answer. You guys have said all the right things. I'm trying to say something new, something to add here. Here's how I think the Niners are going to use Trey Lance this season. I think they're going to use him a lot like the way the Saints used Taysom Hill this season. Not the way they've used him in the past. I think Taysom Hill's going to be the starting quarterback of the Saints. I just do. I think that they want to have 11-on-11 football too. I think they want that run game in there with their quarterback. I think they're going to want him to start for the same reasons Kyle Shanahan's going to want Trey Lance to start. And I think the things that we're going to see from Taysom Hill, obviously he's going to be a running threat. Drew Brees wasn't. And he can throw downfield. Drew Brees didn't. And I think Sean Payton's going to want to highlight those two things, just like Kyle Shanahan's going to want to highlight those two things with Trey Lance. So you guys are saying he's not going to throw downfield much. I disagree. I think he's going to come out throwing downfield. I just do. I mean, I saw him do it in a practice one time to Kittle. So that's all I need to see. One time, one throw, Kittle. He's coming out bombs away. So I think we're going to see a more aggressive play caller down the field. I mean, if he would call downfield passes for Nick Mullins, I think he'll call them for Trey Lance. But really, we're going to see he's going to be involved in a lot of the running plays, even if he doesn't keep the ball, the way that Taysom Hill is in New Orleans. And I think that Trey Lance should have a better season than Taysom Hill, and the Niners should be a better team than the New Orleans Saints. And I do think the Saints are a good team. They're 9-1, I think, in their last 10 games without Drew Brees. They're 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater a couple of years ago. It's a good team. The Niners are kind of built to do that with Trey Lance. So that's my answer. All right, let's move on. How many games would Lance need to win to justify starting him? Assuming he does start week 1 and Jimmy Garoppolo loses his competition because Lance looks more accurate. How many games does this kid need to win for it not to be a controversial decision in hindsight? Waruna.
I think minimum 10 games. The reason is last year that even with everything, we won 6 games. Jimmy won 3. The rest of the squad, CJ and Mullins combined, won 3. So, but what we all felt like, at least we had a quarterback like Andy Dalton. We could have easily won 10 games. The other thing is, like, special teams screwed up so much last year. We can't do the same mistakes over and over again there. So I hope that they will correct that mistake. If that happens, if we take, someone who is capable for punt returns, kick returns, correct over there, and Kyle Shanahan, stop doing some ambitious play calling. And most especially, this year, our schedule, we have 5 games with teams who are finished 4th in their division last year. That Kyle Shanahan play calling, he needs to be some kind of in the preserving mode, not ambitious mode. So those 5 teams, road games like Bengals, Denver is in the chat, but Lions, so we can win these games. So I think 10 is a must. If we can't win 10 games, even with injuries, I'm going to call it. Even with injuries. If Kittle miss 8 games or Bosa miss the entire, I don't care. You need to win to basically justify that Trey Lance is worth these 3 first-round picks. 10 is the minimum.
So I think there's 2 different ways to classify that question. Is how many games does he have to win for the coaching staff and the front office to be satisfied, and how many wins does he have to have for the fans to be satisfied? So I think Waruna there is a little bit of the fan of him is coming out asking for 10 games because, we have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster and people think Jimmy Garoppolo could win 9 or 10 games. So I think that's going to be the expectation for Trey Lance from the fan base. But I honestly, from the coaching staff and the front office, for them to feel justified with the pick, I really don't think he has to win more than 2 or 3 games. I think the bar's a lot lower there because they're already invested in him for the next 2 or 3 seasons. They've already traded away the draft capital in those seasons to get Trey Lance. So I think no matter how he performs this first year, it's really not going to matter. They're building for the future with Trey Lance, and they want to have long-term success with him. So to me, there's the 2 different, 2 different win totals that he needs to reach.
Yeah, well, I don't agree with that at all. I think the 49ers. I think if the 49ers, in order to feel justified with Trey Lance, if they were only to come out and win 3 or 4 games this year, I think that Kyle Shanahan would be pounding his head against the door at the end of the season, because that would just be an all-out failure from an organization to have used their number 3 draft pick on a quarterback, start him week 1, and then finish out 4-13. So I'm more in the ballpark with Waruna, where I'm going to say 10 is the minimum. I think as far as what you would to be able to justify it, because you got to remember the whole reason for going out and getting Trey Lance is because you feel that you were losing games because of the quarterback. You felt that was really your biggest issue. And so you've got to, in order to justify, whoever it is that you're playing, if it's not Garoppolo, has got to go out there and win the games and prove that he's better than Jimmy. So I'm saying 10. Even if at 10-7, the 49ers make the playoffs. And I think if the 49ers make the playoffs, they have a chance to make some noise once they get there. So I'm going to go with 10-7. Lock it in.
So, how many games does Trey need to win to justify him starting? I mean, it depends if, 40% of the team is on IR again. Probably not as many games.
That's true.
I think it's all about the context of the situation. So I think, to me, the minimum threshold is something like around 500. I think if the team were had won 6 or 5 games and Trey started the whole year, that would be not great overall. But I think even if the team is 8-8 or 8-9, 9-8, 10-7, sort of in that range, and Trey shows a lot of promise and he looks much better than Jimmy Garoppolo looks, then he absolutely does justify what the 49ers gave up for him. I think it's more about the feel of Trey Lance rather than how many games does he win or how many games does he lose. Now, I'm not saying he can go out and lose a bunch of games and it'll all just be okay, but if he looks better than Jimmy Garoppolo and the offense looks better and Kyle seems like a much more happy play caller and the team is going in the right direction, I don't think fans would be that mad if the team just missed the playoffs and they were 8-9 or 9-8. I don't think it would be ideal, but I think it would be a much better situation than they are in now, which is a starting quarterback who isn't going to win you the Super Bowl because he's being paid so much money. So I think if things are just going in the right direction, then I think this justifies the trade and what the 49ers gave up for him. It's all about the feel more than anything to me.
See, I think this is the issue with starting Trey Lance. The fact that there are expectations for this team. I think that the expectation is this is a playoff team. So the answer is however many wins it takes to make the playoffs. If they win 10 games and miss the playoffs, fans are going to be pissed. They're going to be pissed, and there's going to be question in the organization, well, would we have went to the playoffs with Jimmy? There's going to be those questions. There's going to be those questions in the organization and in the fan base. And although I'm all gung-ho for starting Trey Lance, we have to be honest that he's walking into a situation where there's a ton of pressure in a way that Trevor Lawrence isn't, Zach Wilson isn't, Mac Jones isn't, Justin Fields isn't. Like those teams, those guys aren't expected to start. I mean, the two, Lawrence and Wilson, are expected to start. They're not expected to win right away. Fields and Jones aren't even expected to start right away. So Lance is in a situation where if he plays, he damn well better make the playoffs. Otherwise, the Niners could have always just stuck with Jimmy and seen what happened. You know what I'm saying? So I think the answer is if he starts, he's got to make the playoffs. And again, I think Kyle Shanahan's going to feel confident he can do that because he did it already with RG3. Did this. And that team in Washington was not as good as his team. So,
but I just think if he looks better than Jimmy, I think that alone, it's not enough to justify it. But I think like what you're saying, Grant, is the fans would be questioning, would we have made the playoffs with Jimmy? If Trey looks that much better, I'm not saying it doesn't matter altogether, but I'm saying things are heading in the right direction and he's that much better than Jimmy is right now. I don't think the fans would have as much of an issue with it. I mean, they missed the playoffs by one game. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if Trey Lance looks awesome. That's my opinion on this matter.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you anymore on this, Ben, and Chuy also, because again, this is Grant's. Everybody expects this to be a team that's going to be competitive and be contending for the Super Bowl. And you have Jimmy Garoppolo. So if you're going to not start Jimmy Garoppolo and you're going to start Trey Lance, you better damn well make the playoffs, because if you don't, there's going to be hell to pay. Because I understand that in our chat or whatever, you might see a lot of folks that are saying, go ahead and start Trey Lance.
Yes.
He's the future. I'm going to be happy about that. But there's a lot of Jimmy supporters out there as well.
And they're being quiet. They're just waiting. And as soon as as soon as Trey Lance shows any vulnerability, it's like, wait a second. I'm telling you, this happened with Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith. When Colin Kaepernick started going downhill, Alex Smith, diehards came out of nowhere. Like, I didn't know he had so many fans. They were like, this is exactly why I said they shouldn't move on from him in 2000. That happened. So I'm just saying there's a lot of Monday morning quarterback. Finish us off, Chuy.
Yeah. So the reason I disagree on this, respectfully, Jack, is Ben did a little bit better job of explaining this. When we look at last season, even the best rookie quarterback last season was Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert didn't have a winning record. Justin Herbert won 7 games with the San Diego Chargers. They had Tyrod Taylor on the roster to open the season, and he ended up, having the weird
5 games.
lung.
I thought
5 games. I thought they were 7 and 9.
Anyway,
it doesn't matter. But does anybody upset with Justin Herbert at this point? No, they think he's going to be a superstar quarterback. So if Trey Lance goes out, shows the flashes, sort of like Justin Herbert did last season, 49er fans are going to be upset. The ownership isn't going to be upset. They're going to say, hey, we got the guy, and he's the future, and everybody's going to be excited going forward.
That's true. But the only way that Trey Lance plays like Justin Herbert and the Niners win 5 games is if the rest of the roster is trash. Or actually not, because I think that the Chargers roster is fine. I just felt like Anthony Lynn was in over. I mean, how did he only win 5 games last year? So maybe that would be a bad sign for Kyle if Trey Lance goes out balls and they win 5 games. That would be bad for Kyle, I would think. But I don't think that.
And I think you have to go back. I don't really think there was a whole lot of people beating on the door before the start of last season, though, also saying that San Diego was a playoff caliber team. I think that that's the other part of it, because Tyrod. What had Tyrod Taylor done in the NFL to really? I mean, I know he'd won some games and had one decent season with Buffalo, but beside that, he hasn't a guy that has the backing that Jimmy Garoppolo has amongst the fans. So a big portion of the fan base right now. I think that's the big difference here.
That was a good discussion, Chuy. Good job. You were the one who disagreed with us, and it's always important and necessary to have someone who disagrees. I go on a lot of roundtables, and it's all 5 people being like, "Yeah, I agree with the last guy. He really pretty much summed it up." Chuy, thank you. You did a good job. No, I'm serious. I can't stand shows where 5 people agree with each other. It always takes guts to be the one guy who steps out. You did a good job. I'm just giving him positive reinforcement because I want that on my channel. Thank you.
Oh, that's
Jay
fantastic.
says,
fantastic.
Yeah, good stuff, dude. Jay says, guys, patience. Agree with Jed. We need insurance policy for the quarterback spot, so we do have to carry Jimmy Garoppolo until we are certain Trey can be a great passer. Or Josh Rosen. If you got Josh Rosen and Trey, you don't need Jimmy Garoppolo. That's why I just want to see a little bit of practice time, preseason time dedicated to the backup quarterback competition, because even if Trey shows he's ready, who's the backup? You know what I'm saying? Like, you might have to keep Jimmy Garoppolo unless Josh Rosen looks good. So, good point, Jay. David says, why expectations for playoffs? Last I checked, they finished their last in their division, or did the 20 season not count? Well, I mean, Nick Bosa's coming back. There's that. They got Trey Lance. There's that. They're talking about playoffs. Their expectation. I think the expectation should be playoffs. No? Year 5 of a rebuild?
Yeah, the expectations of playoffs. Look at everything. This is really the whole revenge tour times 2 with everything they've done to bring back these guys in the secondary, and especially in the secondary, and all throughout the roster they've done this. They've built this team up to try to be a playoff team now. They expect to be a playoff team in 2021. So yeah, it's going to take some. I don't understand why you would think that the expectation isn't to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, if you can't expect a playoff appearance from a regime that's in year 5 of its like, how many years do they need to lay the bricks? How many years of bricks by bricks does it take before you make the playoff consistently? That's all I'm saying. Yeah, that's the expectation.
Yeah. Well, they're building a for Grant, so it might take a little bit.
So what are you gonna say, Waruna?
Other argument is this. This team went to 2019 Super Bowl, and the team is the one that said it will be on a revenge tour. Yeah. And they are always saying they are playoff caliber. They just need the quarterback. This is what team is saying, that we are ready. We are ready to win now more. So it's not the fans. That came from the team. So that's why we expect them to do better. That's it. You set the standard. Now you deliver.
All right, last topic of the day, no more Trey Lance. I wish Trey Lance would do more stuff so we could talk about him all the time. I wish he would do stuff that he should be throwing balls into pizza ovens and going on podcasts, but no, only Kyle Shanahan does it. God love you, Kyle. Thank you for the content. So let's talk about the New England Patriots wide receiver who has requested a trade. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on whether the 49ers should pursue N'Keal, Harry, Ben, Lead us off. Take us away.
So I think they should absolutely try to trade for N'Keal Harry, and here's the reason why I say, because I think it's a really low risk and kind of a medium reward sort of situation, where if you look at N'Keal Harry's contract right now, he's going to be getting paid $2.7 million this season and $3.5 million this season after. And I think the way people are talking about his situation right now, it seems like he'll either be dealt for a really late pick or the team will just straight up cut him. And in that scenario, the 49ers won't have any chance to get him because any team could try and pick him up off waiver wires. And there are a lot of teams ahead of the 49ers.
Good point.
The Jets or, I mean, any number of teams really who could try and pick up N'Keal Harry. So I think they should try and trade either a 6th or 7th round pick or something like a conditional 5th pick, because I think the 49ers need to find ways to improve that wide receiver position. And I think with N'Keal Harry specifically, for someone who really struggles with separation, going to the Kyle Shanahan offense will be a breath of fresh air for him. And with that Kendrick Bourne role lost, and with all the targets that we've been talking about that aren't there anymore from last season, the 49ers are going to need to find those some way. And I think what's great about N'Keal Harry also is that he offers something the 49ers don't quite have right now, a big-bodied 50-50 type catch receiver. I think he would be really great in the red zone too. And as the 4th receiving option, I think life would be a lot easier for N'Keal Harry and the 49ers than it would be on the Patriots. And I think there would be a lot less pressure on him. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer, honestly. I just like these scenarios where you can go and get a former first-round pick for almost next to nothing, where you can take that type of risk, right? And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't really matter. But the upside of it is, to me, is so enticing that it's well worth a 6th round pick, even if you cut him before the season.
Yeah, as far as the question of trading for N'Keal Harry, if it's anything, from a 6th or 7th round draft pick, go ahead, take your flyer on him. I don't think that he's going to give you anything more than Mohamed Sanu would really be able to give you, though. If he just based off of what I've seen of him, I don't think he's necessarily an answer. The Patriots, just think of it this way: the Patriots went ahead and brought in Kendrick Bourne to be their number 3 wide receiver, and he was just with the 49ers. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the guy that you're using to replace N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
That's the part for me. Is it N'Keal? Is that how you say it, or is it N'Keal? I don't know.
We may never know. And as long as he's on the Patriots, I don't think it's our duty to figure it out. I mean, I think as long as we get it close enough and try to make a good faith effort, that's on us. But if he comes to the 49ers, we'll learn. I don't think it really matters.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm
sorry, Mr. Harry.
Yeah, I think that's the way to put it.
Well,
yeah, so I don't. As far as Harry, I don't know. I'm not excited. It's not something that's going to get you excited. But go ahead if you want to take a flyer on him. Use a 6th or 7th round pick, and let's see if he can beat any of these guys out.
When you don't know how to pronounce a dude's name, it probably means that he's not super good yet. Because there are some good wide receivers with some amazing names that we all know how to pronounce because they're good. I'm just saying.
So this time, Grant, I agree 100% with Jack's point there. I think it really comes down to the compensation. So, right now, because we are so strapped with draft capital after the quarterback trade that we made earlier this season, I didn't mention his name. So, because we have such little draft capital, we really have to be smart with the draft picks that we do have. And if it's a 6th or 7th round pick, I think it's absolutely worth it to take a look at it. But Jack stole my thunder when he brought up Mohamed Sanu, because I think that's pretty much the same type of production that you can get out of Harry you can get from Sanu. And we also have the unknown on the injury report that hopefully will play a game this season, who could potentially be better than all of them in Jalen Hurts. So I think that's, I don't really think that it's worth taking the shot for him at this point, unless it's like a 7th round pick.
I'm going to say no. Basically, he's not an injury-prone player because already we have so many issues with that. And Kyle Shanahan doesn't know the answer to injuries. It's what football is, according to him. So why do we add another piece to that puzzle that you are unable to solve at your best? So maybe we should pass on. Another thing is, every time, I don't know whether this is the same situation with other teams as well, but whenever a player's name comes out, everyone goes crazy. Okay, Niners should get him, even when you don't have any So even I presume if Zach Wilson's name come out tomorrow, we would try to find a way how we would get Zach Wilson into Niners QB. So I think we should pass on this, because if we really needed injury player with an injury-prone history, we should have cut Jimmy, then go after Julio Jones. If we really needed a wide receiver, why go after someone who has faded away already? I get the point, but Ben is saying he might have the second life, second chance, but still, it's too late to take a risk at this point.
Well, and I just want to say also, I feel like it's sort of similar to the Jason Verrett situation. Now, the 49ers might have to give up compensation, but they've been willing to take flyers on guys. So I just feel like he's another guy that, why wouldn't you take a flyer on?
Okay, my sources indicate that his name is pronounced Nikhil. I thought it was Nkeel, like in sync, but it's not. It's Nikhil, which is a better name. I mean, now that I think about it, Nkeel doesn't make sense. That's in sync. So Nikhil, good name. I like that. Should the Niners trade for him? I don't think they should trade a pick for him, because they need picks. I know it would probably only be like a sixth. Still, I think I'd rather have a 6th-round pick than N'Keal Harry, just because he's younger, the 6th-round pick. N'Keal Harry, though, I would trade a player for him. I would trade Jimmy Garoppolo for N'Keal Harry, because the way I look, here's my prediction. I think the Niners are going to end up releasing Jimmy. If they get anything more than a 6th-round pick for Jimmy, I'll be impressed. I think they're in la-la land here. I think they're desperately hoping some quarterback gets hurt the way Teddy Bridgewater got hurt a few years ago when 2016. When the Eagles had Carson Wentz and Sam Bradford, they were in a predicament. What are they going to do? Bridgewater goes down. They send Bradford over there. Problem solved. I think the Niners hope that's going to happen. But failing that, when they name Lance the starter week 1, I think they're just going to cut Jimmy, because he can veto a trade anywhere. And I think he probably would veto trades to a lot of places. So if that's the issue and he'd be down to go back to Patriots, just take Harry. If it's between cutting Jimmy and taking Harry, I'll take Harry. Harry might not even make the team. Who cares? I don't care. Give me Harry. I'd like to see him in camp. So
I just don't think that's a possibility, Grant. I don't, personally. But.
Well, it's my show, Ben.
Well, and hey, you know what I will say? If we're talking about N'Keal Harry, we need a guy with a great name on this team. I mean, River Craycraft is the only guy who's an all NFL name guy, so why don't we get another guy with a great name? But no, seriously, I'm interested in taking flyers on these 1st-round picks, because why not? And I guess my whole suggestion is that if it's between him getting cut from the Patriots and another team picking him up off waivers, and the 49ers trading a 7th, I'm willing to trade that 7th, but that just might be me.
All right, well, 49ers, we just laid it out for you. If you want to get N'Keal Harry, sorry. Do it this way. Trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I give you my blessing. Everyone, thank you very much for participating in this All 49ers Roundtable. We'll have another one tomorrow at 3. And in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to be live with Jesse in 5 minutes. So if you want to keep talking football, meet us there in 5 minutes. If not, I don't want to talk to you anyway then. All right, thank you very much, everyone. See you later.